Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a fascinating and, frankly, a deeply challenging paradox, the water crisis in Bangladesh. Now, this isn't just a story about a country that lacks water. It's about a country that's, believe it or not, kind of drowning in contradictions.
All right, so let's jump right in with the central contradiction, the paradox that really defines this entire issue. And honestly, it's a real head-scratcher.
And this is the question, right? This is at the very heart of what we're talking about today. Bangladesh is a river nation, just crisscrossed by this massive network of waterways. So how on earth can it suffer from both these devastating floods and, at the same time, severe water scarcity? It just doesn't seem to add up.
Okay, here's our first big clue, and it's a jaw-dropper. Despite all that water you see in the rivers, a staggering 97%. Let that sink in. 97% of the population has to rely on drilling into the ground for their daily water. I mean, that tells you everything, doesn't it? The river water is either so polluted or so mismanaged that it's basically off-limits for most people.
But you know, that solution of drilling down, well, it creates a whole other nightmare. The groundwater that almost everyone depends on is dangerously contaminated with arsenic. And we're not talking a little bit, we're talking the world's worst arsenic contamination. This isn't just some minor issue, it's a full-blown public health emergency.
So you see, this isn't just one single problem. It's more like a perfect storm of all these interlocking issues happening at once. You've got insane levels of pollution, you have water scarcity in the dry season, then bam, devastating floods in the monsoon. On top of that, rivers are literally getting choked with sediment, and in the south, salt water is creeping further and further inland. It's like they're fighting a battle on every single front. So to try and fix all this, Bangladesh built this enormous, really complex system of rules and agencies and policies. For our chat today, let's think of it as a giant, intricate governance machine, built specifically to tame the water.
So, what do we even mean by water governance? Well, the source material breaks it down pretty simply. It's basically everything. It's the laws, the political systems, the economic factors, and all the administrative bodies that are supposed to manage water resources and get water to people. It's the whole shebang.
And this idea of a machine is really, really helpful. Just think about it. For a country's water system to work, all the different parts, all those cogs and gears like policies, ministries, local groups, they all have to mesh together perfectly. They have to turn in sync. And wow, this slide really shows you just how complex that machine is. I mean, look at this list. And these are just some of the main players. You've got boards for development, organizations for planning, commissions for rivers that cross borders. The sheer number of parts in this machine is, by itself, a massive challenge. Okay, so every machine needs a blueprint, right? An instruction manual. In this case, that manual is a whole series of national policies, and it all leads up to one really important piece of legislation. And this didn't just happen overnight. You can see here, over decades, Bangladesh was building this really sophisticated policy framework. It started back in '92, got a major update in '99, another plan in 2004, and it all culminated in the big one, the Bangladesh Water Act of 2013. And the promise of this act, I mean, it was immense. This was supposed to be the ultimate blueprint. It was designed to get all those different agencies to finally work together, to make sure water was used smartly, and, this is so important, to protect the water rights of the poorest and most disadvantaged people. On paper, it's absolutely world-class. Which brings us right back to our big question. If the country has this fantastic blueprint, why is the machine breaking down? Why is the water crisis in many ways getting even worse? This right here, this gets to the absolute core of the problem. The source material couldn't be clearer about this. There is a huge, and it's getting bigger, gap between the fancy goals written in the policies and what's actually happening on the ground. The machine just isn't running the way the blueprint says it should. And check this out. This is a pretty stunning example of that breakdown in action. You're looking at the National Water Resources Council. This is the top dog, the main control panel for the whole water sector, and it's chaired by the Prime Minister. It's supposed to meet twice a year, but in reality, over the last 20 years, it's met only 10 times. 10! That's an average of once every 2 years. I mean, how can you possibly coordinate a response to a national crisis if the key decision makers almost never meet? But here's the thing. The machine isn't just failing from the inside. It's also getting hammered by these powerful forces from outside the country. Forces that, honestly, Bangladesh has very little control over. And this slide really lays out that huge geopolitical challenge. Look, Bangladesh is a downstream nation.
That means China, way upstream, controls the headwaters of these massive rivers and can build mega projects. Then you have India, right in the middle, sharing 54 rivers with Bangladesh. So by the time the water even gets to Bangladesh, its flow, its volume, its quality, all of that has pretty much been decided by its neighbors. It's a seriously vulnerable spot to be in.
But you know, this isn't just some abstract discussion about policy and geopolitics. This all boils down to the most important point, the real human cost for everyday people.
The United Nations is crystal clear on this. Access to safe, affordable water isn't a luxury or a commodity. It's a fundamental human right, and this right is actually written into Bangladesh's own laws.
But this timeline? This shows a really heartbreaking trend. Over the last couple of decades, as the official laws guaranteeing water rights got stronger and stronger on paper, the public's actual access to that water, well, it's either stalled or, in some cases, gotten worse. The promise on paper just isn't matching the reality on the ground.
And here's a perfect, real-world example of what that looks like. There's a policy that was designed to help poor fishing communities by giving them rights to local water bodies. Sounds great, right? But the system itself creates these impossible hurdles. This quote from the research explains that the leasing fees are so high, poor fishers just can't afford them. So the policy becomes completely meaningless for the very people it was supposed to help. Their right exists in a document, but not in their lives.
And so, that leaves us with this final, really challenging thought. Bangladesh doesn't have a planning problem. It has a world-class blueprint. What it has is an implementation problem. And when a machine is this broken, tangled up with internal failures and battered by external pressures, it really makes you ask that fundamental question. Who is ultimately responsible for turning that incredible plan into a reality for the people who need it most?